Okay, so this is video 2 of our impossible quiz. I'm just going to run through the first couple of questions here. The first one we saw in the last video got to the point where we know G is not the right answer. H, in fact, is. This one says click the smallest circle. So obviously we click on this one, and you see that, ooh, that is clearly not correct. Well, each of these is bigger, so that can't be right. Oh, right up here, there's a tiny little circle on top of the I that allows me to move forward. This says click this 6 times in 6 seconds, and clearly I was unable to do that. Try again. Whoa, slow down, fella. -1 life for 7 clicks. Okay, so too many clicks there. You get the idea. So if we take a look at the two forms, now you probably noticed in that I haven't yet handled the fact that when the lives gets to 0, the program should end. That'll be something to do at some point. So here on question 2, I've got form 2 up. Let's change it so that it actually says question 2 on it. The text box down here is where I change what appears in the upper corner of the form. No big deal, but it's there. You'll notice that I have lives again, another label here just to show the lives, and then the LBL lives that I had in the previous screen I have here as well. I'm still using the same lives variable from the last video, and just it's increasing and decreasing throughout my program. If you remember, because it's in module as a public value, it exists for all of my forms. So I have 4 forms right now, and it keeps track of the lives throughout those 4 forms. So what I've done here, basically, not a big difference from the previous question, just sort of showing a different way to possibly handle the same thing. I have a picture here with a big X in it, and what you'll notice is initially visible as false. So I have it set to have this picture exist on the form, but be invisible so that we can see the stuff behind it. And that allows me to then to have it pop up by changing visible to be true when a mistake is made. So if I need to work underneath it for now, I'll just move it out of the way. This is, of course, a label. The main difference here this time is I have images for all my what seem to be 4 options. Of course, there is a 5th option you saw here, which is the correct one. And then basically, if we go inside, all I did here was clicked on the what looks like the smallest circle. My code is pretty simple, and we'll go through it here together. Picture box 4. I didn't bother changing the picture box name. Again, in a situation where we're dealing with a larger running program that's going to, where we have a lot of stuff on the screen, we'll want to change the names to be more valuable, to be more important. In this case, because I'm kind of hitting the form, moving on from it, I didn't worry about it so much. And so what happens when I click on picture box 4? Well, picture big X, which is obviously the big red X, visible becomes true. And then I turn on this thing called a timer. I've got it named as TMRX, and I'll show you basically TMRX right here. Down the left side of your screen, there's a timer. All I did was drag one of those over here. When we look at the timer itself, because of course that's kind of the newest thing on this form, when I look at the timer itself, the name of the timer changed here. So these are the properties that are available to us for the timer. And the ones that really matter here, enabled, true, or false. So enabled false means right now the timer is off. When I make timer x.enabled equal to true, that turns the timer on, and the timer runs basically just until a certain thing happens. In this case, the interval I have set to be 1000, which is, at least in theory, 1 second. And so now if we kind of go back here, this says make my picture, my big X visible, turn on the timer, and then 1 second later, the program jumps to this section of the code, which is the timer tick function. And basically, again, just when I double click on the timer, I automatically get this sub. Sorry, I use the word function. Subs and functions, just 2 different words for the same thing. When it gets to this point, the picture is made visible false again. Your lives are decreased. The new number of lives shows up in that label box up in the top left corner. And then the timer is turned off so that it doesn't jump back to this section of code again. If we leave the timer on, it keeps coming back here over and over and over, kind of like a loop, but it's a loop that's based on a certain amount of time. A pretty valuable thing, obviously not what we wanted in this case though. And then picture box 5 here happens to be my little dot on top of my eye. Double click on that, and of course it just moves on the same way we did from the previous section. Form 3 shows up, and then me, this form, is closed. And the only other thing in here, you'll see that when Form 2 loads up, it automatically displays the lives. So again, this would be sort of a consistent thing. Each of my forms, as it comes up, I'll have a label lives.text equals lives, and then it just shows on the screen how many lives I'm carrying over from the previous round.